Alright, welcome to round 4 of the Pitskill GT3 Open Championship. Today we are at Zandvoort, and as usual, I will quickly go through the top 10 qualifiers because there's a couple of people that you won't have seen in previous rounds. In P1, we've got a regular of this series. It is Fredriksson, and last time out he was in pole position just like this and spent the entire race at the front right up until the last lap where he got a puncture and then dropped down to P7. So hopefully he will have better luck today. Qualifying in second position is Hull, and he is a new driver in this series with a very fun livery. Are they cats? Are they dogs? I don't know. There's a lot of them, whatever they are. In P3, we've got Cabrera, who is someone who's done quite a lot of races at Pitskill. I've raced with them a lot before, but this is their first race in this series this season. And yeah, they've qualified in P3 in the Mustang. In fourth position, we've got Tiago Matos, also known as Tomatoes, for obvious reasons. In P5, we got my friend Balazs, who is in a different livery for once. No longer in the pink sparkly unicorn livery. He has made a custom one-off livery just for this track. The Zandvoort I Love Sand livery. Make of that what you will. Qualifying in P6, we've got Bromfield in yet another Mustang. I think he had quite a few small incidents in the last round, so we'll see if we can have a cleaner race this time out. In P7, we've got Classic, who has not done any of the previous rounds in this season. Yeah, they are joining for the first time for this round in the very blue, very shiny McLaren. And then we have got Nilsson, who finished in 7th place at round 1, but then hasn't done any of the rounds since then. So missed the last couple, and now joining us again for round 4. In P9, we've got Bjorn King, also known as Burger King, in the 488. The only 488 on the grid. No idea why he prefers that over the newer 296, but he does. And then the final car in the top 10 is Nemeth, also known as Atty. And if you remember back when I used to do a lot more live streams, we used to be able to bet on the races, and we had a phrase that was never bet on Atty because something would always go wrong for him. So hopefully his luck has turned around since then, but we will see. And as usual, I'll quickly point out where I qualified, which is all the way down in P17. Not particularly good for me. I've got Milky right behind me in the white Lexus, so I'm probably going to get overtaken before we even get to turn 1. But yeah, let's go find out. And we are off, heading down into turn 1. Now this track is very hard to overtake on in general, so these early position gains and losses could end up being quite important. We see a lot of people side by side. Hull actually getting ahead of Fredriksson into T1 there, but going to have to go the long way around, so probably not going to work out for him. And indeed Fredriksson manages to hold on to P1, but Balazs and Tomatoes going side by side here. Balazs ends up staying just ahead. We've got a few more side by sides in the background, but Tomatoes hasn't actually given this up yet. He's still on the inside of Balazs. And that means they're probably going to go down this very long, sketchy, fast kind of... I was going to call it the back straight. It's not straight at all. It's very wiggly, but you are flat out the whole way down it. And they're going to go side by side. Very hard to stay side by side through there. Balazs actually wins out there. I'm quite surprised at that, because that is usually a death sentence being on the outside of that section. But yeah, he manages to hold on to the position. Let's have a look at how the start went for a few other people a little further back in the field. We've got Heusinkveld on the right here, who gets absolutely swamped on the start there. I mean, the Ferrari, not good at the starts, but Kierbalinski in the Porsche on the left jumped him by miles down that start straight. They are going to end up going 2 abreast through this next section, though. Heusinkveld doing well to hang on to something after that terrible start. Going to go for a dive, and Kierbalinski actually ends up going off track. The start for me and Milky and Peltari was interesting as we go 3 wide into the first corner. Little contact between me and the Milk, but we do both survive just about, and that's going to leave me going double file with Nathan Williamson through this very sketchy section. Very hard to go side by side here and not end up hitting someone or end up in the grass, as we see Kierbalinski on the left there. That was the outcome of his little incident that we saw a second ago. You can see me trying to go around the outside in that turn 3 or turn 4, whatever it is. Oh no, again, I didn't learn the names of any of the corners, I'm sorry. We'll just call them like the fast right and the tight left, and you'll get the idea, you know. And we're going to sweep into the fast right. There you go, classic corner name. The fast right-hander at the end of that long, not straight straight. You can see I am chasing down Peltari, who is behind Milky, and there's a big old train pretty much all the way up to like P5 at this point. Everyone very close together still. Milky trying to go around the outside of Heusinkveld, a little contact there. Me trying to go down the inside of Peltari into this next corner. Nathan's still here as well. It's all getting very messy. A lot of people very offline here. And I'm going to have the unfortunate pleasure of doing a drag race with the Mustang, which I instantly lose, of course. But behind me, we've got Yotalo going alongside Nathan into this tight right-hander that's coming up. He might just be able to squeeze ahead. Actually, almost gets alongside me. Going to have the inside line on Nathan and should get past pretty easily. He does indeed. Now things have settled down a tiny bit after one lap. We come down the main start, finish straight into turn 1, and Burger King goes straight off into the sand. Not sure if he was trying to avoid someone or just outbraked himself. I think just outbraked himself. Just a classic case of braking a little too late in turn 1. He's going to be able to rejoin nicely though. He does, he slots in just ahead of Heusinkveld and Milky. Now another train that we've got. Like I said, it's very hard to overtake on this track, so there's going to be trains for the entire race pretty much. Another train is this one, which has Martin Steinbach trying to get past Kiełboliński here. Kiełboliński has a little bit of a wiggle, but I don't think it's going to be enough to let Steinbach through here. Although, again, hasn't given it up. Going to try and go around the outside into the tight left hairpin. Quite tricky to do. Kiełboliński gives him room just, but I think Kiełboliński going to hold on to it for now. He does. Here we got Milky closing down on Heusinkveld. Now Milky's in the Lexus, which is a very fast straight line speed car. And we're probably about to see that in action. We are there already. Oh, there's contact for some reason down the straight. Not sure how that happened. But yeah, they already got alongside well before the braking zone for turn 1. But Heusinkveld in the Ferrari does stay ahead, at least for now. Milky's still kind of got a nose in there. This could get sketchy going through here, but no, Heusinkveld is ahead. So Milky going to have to try and do that again next lap, or potentially down this back straight, non-straight. Baltari is also closed right up, and then myself and Mandel and Williamson, we're all kind of joining this train now. And you can see down this back, not straight, just how close Milky is getting. Really damn close. In fact, so close I think that might have been a little tap. That might have been what caused the wiggle from the Ferrari there. But now it is time to go straight line speeding again with the Lexus. I mean, not super close here, but I think with the speed advantage, it's going to be potentially an easy overtake. We'll see. Heusinkveld does leave some room, but then closes it off. Don't do that. I don't want to call anyone out in these videos, but don't do that. Like, pick a line and stick to it. Don't just wiggle at the last second because you see you left a bit of a gap and nearly pushed someone into a wall. But yeah, luckily they both survived that, so Milky's going to have to try that again on the next lap, and hopefully it'll go a little bit cleaner next time. And speaking of which, it is time to try the exact same thing again. Similar sort of gap. I think maybe Milky a little closer this time, and this time Heusinkveld does the smart thing and just covers off the inside fully. No weird wiggling required this time. And they're going to go two abreast around the whole corner, although Heusinkveld already ahead actually, so yeah, I think Milky's going to have their work cut out trying to actually get this overtake done, because the Ferrari definitely better on the brakes and in the corners in general. So as long as Heusinkveld plays it smart, should be able to stay ahead despite the ridiculous power advantage. And speaking of that, we're going to see that in full effect again down the back, not straight. You see just how quickly Milky closes up. Milky having to lift here to avoid going into the back of Heusinkveld. But yeah, then the Ferrari will have a slight advantage everywhere else in the track, so it kind of balances out. And we see Nathan Williamson, who I was battling with earlier, coming under attack from Kiełboliński. Well, not too close at the moment, but has a massive slide out of nowhere. That's a weird place to spin like that. Maybe some kind of funky setup going on, maybe just running like zero wing or something, or absolutely no TC. I don't know, but that was a strange one. Going to cost him a lot of positions here, though. I think 3 cars already gone past, and now he's on the grass and the sand again. This is not going well for Nathan. And I think this is going to drop him down to, yeah, once Don goes past, this is going to be dead last place now for him. This is a nice little 4-way train we've got going on here between Svoboda at the front of it in the Lambo, and then Alexandra in the Ferrari, as Alexandra has a big old wiggle there. What happened there? So does he make contact with the Lambo ahead? He's not particularly close at the moment, but no, just outbrakes himself a little, but does the sensible thing and avoids the car in front. Here we've got Skapash in the Bentley, one of only 2 Bentleys, I think, in this grid, chasing down Atti in the Mustang. 2 cars that are very good at going fast down the straight. So Skapash goes for a little dive, but ends up screwing himself there. And yeah, now going to get swamped by all these cars that we just saw. This is Svoboda in the Lambo, Law in the Aston Martin, and then Alexandra in the... I think Alexandra is in the back of the Aston Martin. I think that's where he is. This is the view from Burger King. It was just behind these guys. We see Alexandra goes very wide, manages to collect it, and you would think that would give Burger King a chance to pass, but I think Burger just went a little too wide into that corner and couldn't take advantage of it. Well, Steinbach still chasing down Kiełboliński. He's dropped back quite a lot from when we last checked in with them, but he's now on the grass, and then it turns into just a face full of walls. Spinner gives him a little slap on the ass on the way past for good measure. I mean, I guess he just goes in a little too hot here, or does he? Yeah, he clips the inside curb, actually. That is the other thing that makes that corner so sketchy, is if you go a little too fast, a little too wide, you die. And if you take it a tiny bit too tight, that curb is very raised and you die. And then you have to sit and watch everybody, the entire grid, drive past, and some of them crash into you. Not a good time. Up towards the front of the field, we still have Tomatoes all over the back of Balazs in the Zandvoort livery. I think Tomatoes definitely got a better exit from that corner. Is he going to be able to do anything with it? I wouldn't have thought so. Again, with the Mustang's decent performance on the straights, even harder to take advantage of it. But yeah, Tomatoes all over the back of him. So we will see if he can do anything to put himself up into fourth, as all he does for now is put himself onto the grass. But definitely seems like a battle that we should keep an eye on. But for now, we're going to keep our eyes focused on this big old train. So many cars here. I think it's classic in the McLaren that is the cork in the bottle as Svoboda gets turned around. Let's see who was responsible for that. I guess it's going to be Alexandra again. He's had a few late braking mishaps in this race, and yeah, add that one to the list. This was Heusinkveld's view as he comes through, sees all the chaos, decides to go for the gravel as there is a Lamborghini parked in his way. I wonder if that's going to gain him any time over Milky and the Lexus behind. I don't think so. I think the gap stayed about the same. But with that gap being about the same, we know what's going to happen. We've seen this several times already. Milky definitely within striking range given the straight line speed of the Lexus, and I think perhaps closer than ever coming out of this final corner. Let's see how much they can gain down here. Going to get a little bit of slipstream as well, of course. Heusinkveld again has learnt from the previous mistake of not covering the inside fully. Going to hold the inside line, and again with the Ferrari being better on the brakes, if he plays it smart, I think he can probably hold on to this for the entire race, but we'll see. Another gang coming onto this start-finish straight is this little train led by Classic. We've got Ati Nemeth in the Mustang trying to go past. He's going to have to go the long way around the outside. See if the McLaren can hold on to the inside just like the Ferrari did, but there is contact between them. It's going to cost Ati a place to Skapas. And now we've also got the Aston Martin right behind. I think that's Law as well, trying to get involved in this. But he's not going to be able to do anything just yet, so the only person who moves up a position there is Skapas. Let's see that from another angle, because we couldn't really tell if Ati turned in early or if the McLaren understeered out. Let's have a look and see if we can decide anything here. There was actually barely contact. I think maybe Ati more trying to avoid the McLaren that he saw coming rather than getting pushed wide. But yeah, he has to brake now behind the McLaren, and that's going to let Skapas up through the inside. So yeah, I think probably just a bit of a racing incident for that one. And now it is that time of the lap again, where we have to watch Milky try and overtake Heusinkveld. Again, going to go to the outside. And then again, I imagine the Ferrari going to hold on. That is exactly what happens. I think we'll be seeing this a lot. Maybe if it happens every single lap, I won't show you every single time. But for now, it's definitely the most hotly contested battle on track. I'm going to watch Milky probably close up just as much as before down this back straight, not straight as well. Not super close right now, but I think, yeah, by the time we get into the fast right-hander, you get a better sense from this point of view as well, just how not straight this straight is. And again, yeah, Milky just right on the back bumper by the end of it. But there's absolutely no way to overtake through there, so nothing they can do. Tomato's still chasing down Balazs. I think the gap maybe increased a little bit. Balazs starting to pull out a few tenths here and there as Tomatoes goes straight into the wall. We saw Steinbach do that earlier. Let's have another look at that. Does he clip the same inside curb that Steinbach hit? He doesn't, no. He takes that pretty nicely and then just loses the back end. I guess, again, just using like a low downforce, low TC setup, and that is the price you pay sometimes. Here we've got Nilsson chasing down Bromfield. These guys fairly high up in the order, battling for P6, and now that Tomatoes has unalived himself, let's say, I guess they're going to be bumped up a position as they're going to go side by side here. If Bromfield comes off the inside, it's very hard to go around the outside here, and yeah, indeed, Nilsson doesn't really even bother trying. Looked like he did get a better exit, but as I've said many times, you can't really gain on a Mustang down the straight, even if you get a better exit. So he's going to have to tuck right in behind, and he tucks in a little too close behind there. I think Bromfield survived that, though. Let's see if he did manage to hang on to it. We can already see the bonnet lurking at the bottom of the screen, about to pounce. And there we go. And yeah, quite a nice little drift from Bromfield. And we saw Skapas overtake Ati earlier, but now he's going to try and get past the McLaren of Classic. Again, the McLaren defends the inside, and we haven't really seen many people make it work around the outside, but Skapas is going to try and be the first, and he actually managed to stay alongside here. I think he's going to get this done. He does indeed. That was nicely done from Skapas. And also somebody in the grass. Who's that? It was Nilsson. We just saw him battling with Bromfield. He's not really anywhere near at the moment as Bromfield goes very deep. I guess that's what's going to lead to this potential collision that we're about to see. But at this point, it looks like the overtake is done, but then Bromfield just drives straight into the back of him. Not good. And now the damage that Bromfield picked up from that little crash might have slowed him down enough for Skapash to close up here. I mean, he's definitely closed up, and he closes up a lot. Quite a brave dive there into that tight corner. Now Bromfield going to have to try and repay the favour on the inside of the next one. We've also got a gang of cars behind them. Everyone wiggling around a little bit as Classic wiggles straight into the Aston Martin and kills him. This is Law. He is the victim of this. You can see he's already wiggling around a little as well. There's Blue McLaren up ahead sliding, the Bentley sliding, the McLaren sliding again. There was just a whole lot of sliding from everyone there. And the unfortunate end result is that Law ends up having an unscheduled face-to-face meeting with the wall. Now Classic in the McLaren has already lost a couple of positions in the last few laps. But now going to come under attack from Burger King in the Ferrari, and the only Ferrari 488 as well. Everyone else in Ferrari 296s. But Burger King doing it old school, going to go for a dive of the inside. This is the one time we've not seen Classic defend the inside. And going to pay the price for it, as potentially Heusinkveld going to nip through as well, but no. So yeah, up into P8 for Burger King. We already saw Skapash try and get past Bromfield once unsuccessfully, but Bromfield's going to do the job for him this time and just go straight off into the sand. This is on board with Ati Nemeth, who's going to watch this unfold in front of him. Yeah, Bromfield off, and Ati probably thinking that he's going to get a free place here, but Bromfield manages to rejoin just ahead of him. As they're going to come into these tight right-left corners where we saw everyone sliding around just a minute ago. And it seems like Bromfield maybe still struggling for traction a little, having to go defensive here. Stop Ati getting past. And Ati also sliding around. Bromfield still sliding around. Yeah, these corners are very slippery. I know it looks like everyone just didn't bother to use traction control today, but those corners are slippery all the time, no matter what you do. Now we're back with Classic, who we've seen lose quite a few positions in the last few laps. He is now under threat from Heusinkveld. Heusinkveld going to try and go the long way around. Like we've said before, it doesn't really work at that corner, but Heusinkveld might get a better run. He does, coming down into this next section. The McLaren going to look to go defensive. Very hard to take this next corner on a defensive line. We'll see if Heusinkveld can do the tricky overtake around the outside, and it looks like he does. It was very nicely done from Heusinkveld. As they pull onto the main straight around the last corner, is Classic going to lose yet another position? This time to Milky in the Lexus. Doesn't go defensive. Milky not really close enough, you wouldn't think here. But getting close enough maybe now for this, for this next section. Going to be alongside, and that's going to be the inside line of this next corner, which, as we said, very hard to go side by side through. And yeah, that just goes to show what normally happens there. A little bit of contact, a little bit of door banging. Not the cleanest overtake, but Milky does go through. A little further down the field, battling for P17, we've got Yoltalo chasing a very slippery Nitro ahead in the Porsche as we come into the even more slippery corners. And Nitro going to hold on for now, and again, you see everyone is wrestling with the cars here. It is so sketchy. Nitro goes a little wide, but I think, especially with that slide from the Mustang, I think done enough to stay ahead for now. But is it going to be enough to hold off a Mustang on the straight? The Porsche is also one of the weaker cars on the straights. This is the old Porsche. As we see somebody exiting the pits, that could have made things interesting, but Yoltalo makes it interesting all on his own by driving into the side of Nitro there. Again, not a very clean pass, but a pass nonetheless, apparently. Now, as we are approaching the halfway point in the race, we have a few people diving into the pits. We've got Bromfield in the Mustang. We have the Ferrari of Burger King and the Ferrari of Heusinkveld trying to mate with him in the pit entry. Let's see this from another angle, because I'm pretty sure it's going to look just as horrific no matter where we watch it from. And yeah, that was not good. Heusinkveld not having a very clean race today. We haven't seen much of Spinner yet in the purple Ferrari, but here he is chasing down Nitro. And again, I think the Porsche is going to be a sitting duck on the straights, even to the cars that aren't particularly great on the straights, like the Ferrari. Although Spinner is going to have to go the long way around at turn 1. The Porsche should be good in the corners, especially with the drive out of the corners, but they're going to end up going double file into this next corner, which we know often doesn't work out well, but I think they both played that pretty well there and lived to tell the tale. Another person diving into the pits is the first position car of Fredriksson, as he looked going pretty fast there and nearly hit the wall. Let's see in slow motion how fast he went in here. I think that was 65 it showed, and then he's full lock left to avoid the wall. I think he got very lucky there because he doesn't get a penalty. He got no penalty for speeding, and he also didn't get any damage from the wall. Now it is my turn to chase down the blue McLaren of Classic, as Bromfield exiting the pits. Obviously also didn't have a good pit stop, maybe had to repair some damage. Classic goes a little wide. Now again we're going to go side by side into this section. We've seen this happen quite a few times, and quite a few accidents happening here as well, but both leaving plenty of space. Now I've got the unenviable task of trying to go all the way around the outside here. Again, leave maybe a little too much space there. And we're going to come side by side out of the corner onto the back, not straight. I managed to just nip ahead. And now it's up to Bromfield to try and overtake the McLaren as well. They're going to almost go side by side into this fast right-hander, but Bromfield backs out of it. Probably the sensible thing to do. Here we've got a red Ferrari chasing a red Ferrari. Two of them that have both been in a few incidents so far, Alexandra and Heusinkveld. As Heusinkveld goes a little wide, dips a wheel into the gravel, and that lets Alexandra through nice and easily. Now poor Nitro going to come under attack yet again down this straight, probably regretting the Porsche choice at this point, because even though this track does not really have many straights, and especially not long ones, it's still enough for people to just mug him, and this time Swoboda going to go for the inside. And again, we've got people exiting the pits, which makes things a little interesting. Looks like Swoboda might have outbraked themselves, gone a little deep. They do indeed. And again, we're going to see a too wide through this section. Hopefully they can all survive. Nitro holding on, but we'll have to go around the outside as Swoboda's got the inside through here. Still too wide. Again, with the lack of straight line speed from the Porsche, I think they're going to struggle here. Although, got a better exit. And now they're going to have this horrible side-by-side moment. Yeah, this is why I was surprised that Balazs managed to hold on to this on the first lap, because very hard to do around the outside through that section, as Nitro just discovered. Another pair of cars that are having to go through this same part of the track as Peltari, chasing down the Lamborghini of Mandel, as Peltari gets very sideways there. Did well to hang on to that one. Let's see it from on board with Peltari, because I imagine there was quite a fight with the steering wheel there. Again, just caught out by how fast he was gaining. Yeah, he drifts through that whole section. One of the fastest parts of the track. Well held. And yet again, we see the blue McLaren of Classic about to be attacked by someone. This time it's Bromfield, who looked to have a little bit of a wiggle there, but going to get a better exit somehow. And again, with the Mustang speed, probably going to make this pretty academic. And yeah, passed before they even get into the corner. Classic has just unfortunately dropped like a stone since the start of the race. At this point, I've broken clear of Bromfield and Classic, but then I go straight onto the grass and the gravel and the sand and the bumps and everything, and instantly lose the position to Bromfield. Now Classic going to also try and follow through, but has to stay behind until they go for a bit of a send, which I remember feeling quite rough at the time. So this is on board with me going into that corner. You see there's nobody there. I start turning in, and then all of a sudden there's just a blue McLaren right in my face, and I have to take avoiding action. But not the absolute worst dive bomb you've ever seen, but felt a little bit sketchy at the time. Like I say, as we see, Classic also run very wide there, having a good old wiggle, but unfortunately I'm not going to be close enough to do anything about it. Now we've had a few laps of not seeing this, but I think we're going to be back to our regular programming of watching Milky try to get past Heusinkveld down the straights. This time they've got the Ferrari of Burger King in tow as well, ready to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong. Heusinkveld again learns from the previous laps and covers off the inside fully. Milky again going to get right alongside here, and we'll see if it has the same end result as it did the first 10 times they did this. I think it's going to, because Milky again goes a little wide. Heusinkveld keeps the inside, and yeah. Milky getting on the flashers now as well. Not really sure why. I don't think you can flash someone just because you're sick of being behind them. Burger King has now got Mandel for company. Well, they're both still chasing down Milky and Heusinkveld, as Burger King does a big sideways. And his car does self-right itself. Always good. Did he touch the inside curb here that bounced him wide? A tiny bit, but kind of seemed okay. And he actually wasn't even on the grass when he started to lose it, just on the curb. And yeah, very nice of his car to just point itself back in the right direction. And Nathan Williamson, we saw have a bit of a random spin earlier. He's now got himself onto the back of Nitro. And you'd think with the Bentley speed, he should be able to get past on the straights or just slam into the wall. Oh, and somebody else nearly got collected there. This was Law, I think, who comes through here and is going to see a big red Bentley just parked in the middle of the track and does well to avoid it. So thanks to Burger King taking himself out of the equation, Mandel has now been promoted up into P10, right behind Milky. And getting a pretty good exit here, but I think with the Lexus, straight line speed is not going to be anything they can do before this next section. Going to have a little sniff of the inside though, to try and force an error, getting very close to the rear bumper. This has allowed Peltari to also catch up. So Now got to worry about a Mustang behind and a Lexus in front. Going to be caught in a straight line speed sandwich. We'll keep an eye on that and see if they can hang on. But speaking of hanging on, we're going to take a look at a replay here of why Bromfield left the race, and that is why a big old slide almost catches it, but then face first into the wall. Yeah, that'll end your race pretty quickly. Spinner here chasing down Swoboda. They are fighting for P17. I think there's still a couple of people that haven't pitted, but most have, as they're going to go side by side here. Again, going around the outside in this section, almost impossible. But Spinner actually potentially going to make it work. I think that's the first person we've seen get even this far, and that will turn into the inside line for the next corner. We saw Heusinkveld manage to go around the outside to overtake someone though, so it's not guaranteed that having the inside will work out, but it does for Spinner, so very nicely done there. The only person we've seen making that work around the outside of the previous corner. Here we've got Tomatoes fighting his way back through the field because he had a big old crash earlier. He was fighting Balazs for P4. And yeah, now he should be a lot faster than most of the people that he finds himself around. He's going to nip past Classic here. Nicely done. And you can also see Tomatoes catching up with this little gang that I am the lead car of. This Ferrari alongside me is a back marker, so he's not really in this battle. I see myself and Yotaro get past him. Now Tomatoes and Classic just behind us. They've also got to get past him as he is tucked right in behind the Mustang of Yotaro. And goes for probably an unintentional overtake. This was the view from Tomatoes. We've got the back marker just ahead of him. And yeah, obviously trying to take avoiding action. He's not actually trying to overtake there. Oh, Tomatoes also gets hit. Yotaro recovers pretty well from that. And luckily it was only really the back marker that actually got completely taken out by that. We haven't seen Kirstein at all yet in this race, I don't think. But he's now been hunted down by Nilsson. Nilsson, of course, was fighting for P5 or 6 earlier and had a bit of a crash with Bromfield. Got shunted. But now Nilsson going to look to dive up the inside. And again, you would think being the faster driver should be able to get past pretty easily. And he does indeed. But we can also see Fredriksson, the yellow Lamborghini, in the background. He is P1 in this race, so he's actually lapping these guys. And hopefully they will all get out of the way nicely. As we see, Kirstein does indeed make that very nice and easy for Fredriksson to get past. That is going to leave him vulnerable to Kierbazinski, though. But I think Kirstein holds on just about. Yeah, he does. He stays ahead. And now it is up to the second place driver of Hull to get past these two that are still battling. That is Kirstein and Kierbazinski. Hull with the very interesting livery. Can't miss him, but let's see if he manages to miss the back markers. Are they going to let him through nicely? They do. Well, the first one does. Kierbazinski get in nice and out of the way. And now he's going to have to get past the Aston Martin of Kirstein as well. Not quite close enough yet as they come into the last corner. And Kirstein goes very wide. I don't think he was intentionally trying to let the leaders through there, but that is the same end result. And this could now give Kierbazinski a chance. Kirstein goes wide again, and now they're going to go side by side down the whole back straight, or the main straight, sorry. And we'll see if Kierbazinski can finally get this done, but he doesn't, loses out from straight line speed again. Now we see Balazs, having seen off Tomatoes earlier. Well, Tomatoes kind of saw himself off. Balazs has now got Skapash for company. Skapash gained a lot in these last few laps and is now right on the back of Balazs. Both cars very good on the straights, so that advantage will kind of nullify itself for both of them. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this if they get any closer, and we'll come back to that. But for now, we jump back on board with Nilsson, who, like I said, is kind of fighting his way back through a lot of slower cars after fighting for P5 earlier and then getting shunted off the track. He's now going to have to battle through some people that he should be able to overtake fairly quickly. But on this track, easier said than done. As we see both him and Don go very wide into this slippery corner where we've seen a lot of people struggling to keep the rear end in check. And that was the same thing again for Don there, which allows Nilsson to get past and up into P20. And you can see just behind them in that last shot that Kierbazinski and Kirstein were all over the back of Don as well, and that is still the case as they're going to come onto the main straight. A big old wobble for Kierbazinski, but I think the guys ahead had an even worse time somehow, and that's going to allow Kierbazinski to get real close. They're going to go almost 3 wide here. I think both of them are going to get past Don. He's going to lose 2 places here, maybe. We'll see if Kierbazinski can get it done into turn 1. He does, so yeah, Don losing out 2 more places there on the main straight. Let's see what exactly caused all of that, because Don was quite far ahead. He just goes a little bit wide, has to lift off the throttle to avoid going into the gravel. That lets Kirstein close up, and that in turn lets Kierbazinski close up. Oh, Don goes wide, and then Kierbazinski nearly into the back of Kirstein twice. That was very messy, but they did all survive, and there wasn't actually any real contact. I think maybe a slight tap from Brzezinski onto the back of Kirstein, but overall, that went pretty well, all things considered. Here we are looking back from the Mustang of Yoltalo. We've got Tomatoes chasing him down for P14. As we said, Tomatoes should be able to get past relatively quickly, because he will be a much faster driver, but he's got to deal with the Mustang down this long old not straight straight. Not getting dropped as much as I thought. In fact, actually possibly gaining. Maybe he's running a really low wing setup, which would explain his little incident earlier. Gets very close to the back of Yoltalo with his fast right. I mean, he hasn't got long to do this. There's only probably going to be 1 or 2 more laps as he almost rear ends Yoltalo there. And I think that's enough to spook Yoltalo. It is. Let's see that from another angle. I mean, he was really close through here, and it looked like he was almost going to rear end him. And it was just enough to spook him into going a little too wide, and up goes Tomatoes. Now this is going to be the start of the final lap for Skapash and Balazs, battling for P4. Skapash has been all over him for the last few laps, but hasn't managed to find a way through yet. Like I said, it's very hard to overtake on this track without the guy in front making a mistake, and Balazs hasn't seemed to make any so far in this race. Now, he hasn't been able to keep up with Cabrera in P3. I mean, we've barely seen Cabrera, but he's just sat in a kind of lonely P3 for the whole race. He's got a 12-second gap back to Balazs, and a 4-second gap to Hull in second. So we'll keep our eyes on this battle instead for now, as the leaders will be getting very close to the finish line. We'll go and jump to check in on them in a second, but for now, there's somebody off in the grass, or gravel. It is Nathan again. Yeah, for now, Skapash not quite close enough to do anything. He's going to have to get a little closer if he wants to pressure Balazs into a mistake, but easier said than done. They're going to come through the very slippery corners for the last time, and Skapash is all over him here. Balazs having to go defensive. Can Skapash do what Spinner did and go around the outside? No, I don't think so, especially not with all this soaring at the wheel to catch all the slides, and I think that's probably going to be it. Unless Balazs makes a silly mistake in the last few corners, that should be it. And we will come back to them in a second, but first of all, we will congratulate the winner, which is Fredriksson. Started in P1, finished in P1. Very dominant performance for him, and nothing went wrong this time, no punctures. And just behind him in P2, we have Hull in the funky livery and the Porsche. Good result for him on his first round of this championship. Then behind them in P3, we have Cabrera. Like I said, we haven't seen him at all. He's had probably a very boring race, but a good result nonetheless. And let's see how things are shaping up between Balazs and Skapash for P4. And as I was saying, I think without any silly mistakes, should be in the bag for Balazs. And yeah, he's going to make it onto the start-finish straight and finish in P4, with Skapash finishing in P5. And then in P6, we have Ati Nemeth. Quite an interesting first half of the race for him, I think, but then kind of quieting down towards the end. Fighting for P7, still on track, we have Alexandra and Heusinkveld. We saw Heusinkveld go off into the gravel, kind of gifting this position to Heusinkveld, but Heusinkveld's still all over the back of him and could try and make something happen into these last few corners, but I don't think going to be close enough. And yeah, the same situation that we had with Balazs and Skapash, barring any big mistakes, should be in the bag for Alexandra. But, I mean, you never know. People do make mistakes on the last couple of corners because they're trying a little bit too hard, and the nerves and the kind of the stress of, like, forcing yourself not to make a mistake actually ends up making you make a mistake, which is kind of silly, but it happens. And we did see Alexandra have a little bit of a wiggle there on the exit of that last corner, but no, he's going to hold his nerve and finish ahead of Heusinkveld, so he finishes P7, Heusinkveld in P8. In P9 we have Mandel in the Lamborghini. Didn't see too much of him, he was chasing me for a while, but yeah, finishes within the top 10, so a good result for him. And the final place within the top 10 is going to go to Peltari in the Mustang. And you can see Milky and Burger King fighting for P11 and 12 just behind him. And it is Milky who's going to take P11 and Burger King P12. Then we've got myself finishing in P13. In the last 3 rounds I finished in P14, but this time we are up 1 into P13. Maybe that will be my new norm. We'll see. Just behind me was Tomatoes in P14. Not a bad recovery after, yeah, ending up real far down early on. Then Yoltalo in 15th, after we saw him get overtaken by Tomatoes on the second to last lap. Bit of a shame for him. He's closely followed home by Classic in P16. And in P18, it's going to be Svoboda in the blue Lambo. And then P19 and 20 going to be very close. It is Nilsson and Nitro just behind. So that is the full top 20. And this time we'll actually take a look at the standings for the championship too. Just quickly before we look at the standings though, let's do driver of the day, and for this one I'm going to go for Skapash because he gained 9 positions from where he qualified, And yeah, did a couple of nice overtakes. We can see this one here around the outside of the McLaren. And then, of course, he also managed to catch right up with Balazs, but couldn't actually get past him at the end. But still, a good effort getting all the way up there after qualifying way outside of the top 10. So let's take a look at the standings for the championship. Now, like I said, there are 2 drop rounds in this series, so you can miss 2 rounds entirely, or if you do every round, it will just remove your worst 2 results. So we're seeing that in effect already here. Even though we've only done 4 rounds, it already removes people's 2 worst results if they've done more than 2 or 3 rounds. Now, I'm not going to go through everybody, but obviously we've got Fredriksson in the lead, which is not too surprising, as his best results were 1st place and a 2nd place. And then close behind him, we've got Balazs, who's had a win at Brands Hatch last round out, and then a P4 this time as well. And currently in 3rd position, we've got Baby Perchime. However, he has missed the last 2 rounds, so we'll have to see if he returns. It's possible he's just not going to do any more rounds. We don't know. But yeah, hopefully he will come back and carry on with the championship. But yeah, there's not too much to read into this at the moment because we've only done 4 rounds. It'll start to be a bit more meaningful once we've done sort of 5 or 6 or 7 rounds. But yeah, I thought I'd just at least show you guys where people are sitting at the moment. So yeah, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll come back next time for Bathurst, which is bound to be an interesting race because it's such a good track and there's so much death there all the time. So look forward to that. Now we've got Classic again, who lost a place. A place?